is the key to a crucible that stretches the sanity of the mind.
Hello Exiles, and welcome to my Power Siphon Locus Mine Mana Stack Scion. So, the main interaction I'm using is Locus Mine. This is a mine support that was introduced relatively recently. It can only be used with attack skills that use bows or wands and fires projectiles ahead. And the numbers on this thing are very good. So first of all, supported skills throw up to 2 additional mines, so it throws 3 mines by default. It also has a much lower damage penalty of 11% less damage. Compare that to Blast Chain or High Impact Mine, which have a damage penalty of around 50% less. So baseline, just looking at the numbers, this mine support is 6 times the damage of others. However, it's balanced by mechanical clunkiness. It fires less projectiles with a minimum of 1, obviously, but it also targets you when activated. So let me demonstrate that with just a kinetic blast. I throw out some mines and I detonate, and they target me, right? They don't target enemies, they target you. However, Power Siphon last league was changed from firing 7 additional projectiles to firing a projectile at up to 7 nearby targets at level 20. And this overrides the behavior. So if you use it with Locus Mine, you get the numbers of Locus Mine, which are very powerful, and you override the downside. I'm also using Power Siphon of the Archmage, a transfigured version that loses a bunch of the power charge scaling, but instead gains base damage equal to 27% of my maximum mana. And I'm stacking mana, I have around 10,000, so that's almost 3,000 base flat lightning damage, which is quite potent. Alright, so now let me show you a quick map. I've got this tropical island rolled, and I've been running Ritual just to fish for some rare things. Accompanied by a map boss. I don't really care about that. Okay, let's just go. Yeah. First thing you see, I've got 3 elemental flasks that I'm running with the trader to help cap res and for damage reduction. Yeah, so it's pretty much, it's not really a wander playstyle. It's more, it's more of a mine playstyle, which isn't for everyone, but it's, it's not too bad. Like you run around, you throw mines, they automatically trigger with the mastery for trigger detonate mines while you're moving. You can also use automation support this league, but I prefer the mastery because if you're using automation, it won't you can't pre-fire mines, as like they'll just detonate as soon as you throw them down, right? But with trigger while moving, you can throw some down and then move, and then they all trigger. Let's check the harvest. Yeah, okay, I'll do some of this. Yeah, what else is there? I've got arcane cloak also on automation. That's a good chunk of damage. And yeah, arcane cloak is also important because I'm using Indigon, which gives me spell damage for mana spent recently and also ramps your costs. But I'm using the wand mastery to wait, what am I doing? Oh, there's a bunch of yellows. Okay. Yeah, so I have the wand mastery to make spell damage apply to attacks with wands. So Indigon gives me just a whole bunch of scaling if I've ramped my cost enough. That's 6 there, okay. Yeah, let's do that one. Yeah, so you'll see every once in a while when my arcane cloak goes off, my mana cost starts to ramp. And then I do a lot of damage. So my damage is kind of inconsistent. If I don't have arcane cloak up and I don't have any Indigon ramp, then it's like around 5 million, but with buffs up, it can go up to like 15 to maybe even 30 million. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's really just limited by my mana regen, which I have invested quite a bit into to make the build more comfortable to play. Speaking of mana, you may see that I have 3k life and less than 2k ES, which isn't much. So I'm also using Mind Over Matter which is 40% mana before life. I have a Clarity Watcher's Eye for another 10%, and I'm also taking the Hierophant node in Scion for another 8%. So total I have 58% mana before life. What was that donk? Ooh. Oh, Blood Notch. 43. Meh, whatever. Okay. Let me level my gems. What else is there to talk about? I think that's... I'll just keep playing the map, and if I think of anything else, I'll say it. Yeah, so you can see the playstyle is generally pretty clean. I throw some mines and I shield charge ahead, and that kills most things. Except for these map bosses. They're a little chunkier. Ugh. Stuck for a second there. Oh, there's another map boss. I didn't even notice you. Oh, hey, that's one of the new ones. The patch introducing some new scarabs was like literally an hour or two ago, and this is my first map after the patch, and I got a new one. Cool. Oh, yeah, another thing. When I have my Indigon ramped and my mana regen is struggling to keep up with my mana costs, you'll sometimes see my mana bar jumping up and down. That's due to there's a mana mastery for 10% chance to recover 10% of mana when you use a skill, and that's actually quite good. Because detonate mines actually counts as using a skill, not triggered version, not if you're using automation or anything like that. Is if you're holding detonate mines while throwing out mines, that counts as using a skill. So that's actually pretty good mana sustain when I'm sitting still and just throwing mines. I'll take that. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun just looking through rituals for hoping for some big results. I've gotten quite a few raw divines, but nothing much other than that. Alright, I'll just take some random stuff. Okay, that's a map. Okay, so let me just go over my gear and tree real quickly. Flasks, again, I'm using 3 elemental flasks to help me cap. The uniques I'm using are Cloak of Flame, gives me a bunch of evasion, energy shield, mana regen, and mind over matter, which is very good because it saves me a couple points pathing to it here. Indigon, again, this is like more than double damage when it's ramped. Series Foible, really hard to beat, especially the reduced attribute requirements. I can't quite cap with that. Yeah, you see. Disable automation. Machinimitz with a +1 Frenzy Corruption. This is the only way for mines to give you life leech, and it's the only form of life recovery I have because I can't fit a life flask into the build because I'm using the trader. Yeah, those are the uniques. Boots and shield are just kind of life, res, mana. My shield is actually pretty good. I bought this as is. I don't know how this person got an abyssal socket on it, but it's pretty good. It gives me some more life, mana, crit multi, and some accuracy to cap. My belt is a synthesis base with mana recovery rate. I managed to snag one with also a bit of mana regen. But yeah, mana recovery rate is multiplicative with regen rate because it's just a separate multiplier. That's how it works. And you can see I have almost 2,000 mana regen per second. I could get a little more, but at this point I'm pretty much done with the character and I don't really want to get more gear or recraft any more gear. Again, explicit rolls are just mana, life, res, and the essence mod for trap and mine throwing speed. My ring is a graveyard craft, triple fracture, mana regen rate, on a cerulean ring, and then I just reforged life until I hit T1, and I also randomly hit T1 int, which is also good because it's more ES, more mana, and yeah, I'm using Calendra's Touch to double it. And finally, my wand. Because we're a miner, we don't care about attack speed, so we can use an omen base, or a prophecy base would be a little better. It's just a crit base. So yeah, I have a crit fracture. I spammed lucent fossils until these prefixes, and then I just multi-modded to finish. So that's the gear, and this is the tree. So you can see the reason I'm a Scion is mainly for this socket setup. I have a healthy mind in here, which makes increases to life applied to mana at 200% of value, and I'm getting the Scion life wheel. So all of this life is turned into life. Each of these small nodes are 10% mana. I'm also using a perandus pact here. Passive skills and radius grant +5 flat mana, so you know all of these small nodes are giving me more flat mana, as well as an unnatural instinct here to capitalize on these overlapping mana nodes. So this unnatural instinct is giving me 30 spell damage, a bunch of accuracy to help cap, 75 flat mana, 16% mana, move speed, a little more proj damage, and some stats. Pretty hard to beat in this slot. You can also use a Might of the Meek in this slot. That's what I was doing for most of this character, but in my current setup, a perandus pact is very slightly better. For my ascendancies, I'm taking Elementalist with Path of the Witch, just generically good for elemental builds. And I was doing Inquisitor until recently. Hierophant is similar damage and also more defensive because of that 8% damage mana before life. And the rest of my tree is quite efficient, actually. You know, I path through some life, some mana, power charges. I have the Trader here. This Brutal Restraint is solving my dexterity as well. This Wand Cluster for the Wand Mastery, or spell damage to apply to attacks. Some Mind stuff, crit stuff. This Lightning Mastery increases to maximum mana, also applied to shock effect at 30% of value. I have something like 500% increased maximum mana in this build. So this basically means that I'm max shocking like anything in the game. Yeah, what else is there? I have a Watcher's Eye, again, mana before life, 10%. Some accuracy, and yeah, Ghost Dance. So yeah, you can see I have almost 2000 energy shield. My only way of recovering it is Ghost Dance with my evasion, which is, with Flask up, it's 1400, which isn't great. It's not ideal. I wish I could get more. Like if I had a Mage Blood, I could probably get much more evasion from flasks. But you know, you make do with what you got. Right. Another thing is I want to use Grace, right? Obviously for evasion, but I don't want to cut my mana in half, so I have to use Eternal Blessing. But the thing is, Eternal Blessing disables your non-blessing skills, which reserve mana, are disabled while you have an aura from a supported skill on you. The thing is, we're a mine build, and mines inherently reserve mana, so I would disable my entire build, right? So the way I got around that is actually linking Arrogance to my Locus mine, which is effectively a 5-link, not technically, you know, like Arrogance has a 200% cost and reservation multiplier, which actually helps my Indigon ramp faster. So you can, I can kind of justify it in that way, but yeah, ideally it would be a 6 damage link, but it's really hard to drop Grace in this build. So yeah, I think that's everything. Hope you found this interesting. Maybe it inspired you to make your own build using this interaction. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.